Joining me on my channel is young adult novelist Diana Pinguicha, who is author of the forthcoming A Curse of Roses, coming out in December of 2020 from Entangled Teen. And we are talking about writing a synopsis and how to make it fun. So we've come up with 4 tips for writing a synopsis and making it fun. Right. And before we begin, what have been some maybe challenges that you've had in the past with writing synopsises? I can think of some for me.
Yeah, so my main challenges were always figuring out what to leave and what to not leave in, because I used to do synopsis after the fact.
Yeah.
So when you write them after the fact, you think everything is super important and you need to include all the details. You don't, which is why I do them first now.
Yeah, and it's really hard to skim over like subplots and plot points that are really powerful in the book, but when you're writing it out as a synopsis and you include it, it just doesn't make any sense. It's just like, well, how do you explain this really emotional, complex subplot in a 2-page synopsis? And I mean, I tend to be a mix of a plotter and a pantser. Are you more of a plotter or a pantser?
I'm more of a plotter, but I often plot things and then I pants halfway through, because often you find out when you write a synopsis first, it looks good on paper, theoretically, but as you're writing, things don't gel.
Yeah.
So when that happens, I go completely in a different direction and then change the synopsis to reflect what I changed. But just because you write it first doesn't mean you have to completely adhere to it.
Yeah, definitely. And like something I find when I try to make the outline before I write the book is that it does make the book very formulaic feeling, and it makes it very kind of predictable. So I think it's important to have a little mixture of like, have kind of a general direction of where you're going if you're writing your synopsis before you write the book. But allow room for flexibility and allow room for the characters to tell you they want to go in a different direction than when you had originally planned. So those are some of the challenges either before writing the book or after writing the book. Challenges with synopsis. We came up with 4 tips that make it a little bit more fun to write the synopsis. So let's go into tip number 1. So what's your tip number 1?
My tip number 1 is to use beat sheets. And
what is a beat sheet?
A beat sheet is when you go by story beats, like, so let me share my screen. We can share only host, all participants. But I think you have to.
No, you should be able to hit the green share screen button.
It's showing me advanced sharing options.
Oh no. And then you should just be able to click on desktop and hit
share.
It's
showing now. It's, whatever. Technology.
Yay, there it goes.
Okay, so beat sheets are the beats of your book. For instance, I downloaded this off Jaminord's website, which I think Carly will then link.
Yep, I'm going to put a link to where you can get this beat sheet from the internet. And it's handy because you can adjust it with your own word count.
So for instance, my novel was 90K, so you just put 90K and you can see it adjusting. And it already has the beats set up for you. So the opening image, naturally what opens, the themes you're stating, the setup of it all, the inciting incident, as we like to call the catalyst. And basically it just shows how many pages if you're doing, writing the book. But I just usually grab these, sets the tone, mood, type, a before snapshot, and I just fill this in with whatever I was doing. So for instance, for the Miracle of Roses, Isabel is cursed to turn all the food into flowers. And then the secondary character poses a question or statement. This actually happens. And her lady's maid, for instance, tells her maybe it's not a curse.
Got it. And we
And
should
then you just
maybe have a whole nother video on like what these different
beats
beats are, because that could be like a whole like 2-hour topic.
Yeah. So essentially, I just fill this up and then I paste it all into Word. And if it's too long, like over 1K, I start trimming adjectives that I don't need, or adverbs. Adverbs are usually a good thing to trim for if your synopsis is too long. You don't need like she slowly realizes, just put in she realizes. That's one word.
Definitely.
And then that's how I do the synopsis. I just fill out a beat sheet and then copy it. That's my trick number 1.
Perfect. So trick number 1, get the beat sheet from the link down below and fill it out. And then you can copy and paste those steps into Word and then, you know, put it all together. Okay, cool. What's tip number 2?
So my tip number 2 would be to grab your query or query. How do you say it?
Query letter. That's how I
query
pronounce
letter, because you know in Java it's queries and it doesn't matter. So you grab your query, and your query should already have the basic plot that would incite someone to read.
We should do a whole nother video on writing a query letter.
Writing a query letter. So you should have that, but in the end, in a query, you don't give away the ending. You just pose it at, if this doesn't happen, then main character X, if not, Y. And so you grab your query and then you answer those sentences. And that's a pretty good 1-page synopsis. You can even fill it out a little bit because you have more room, because it's just a query, so it's 3-4 paragraphs long.
Yes, yeah. And just to, as a little reminder for our audience, what happens in the first paragraph of a query? You introduce your character, right? Your character and their main problem.
Yeah, exactly. You introduce your character and their main problem, and then you have the inciting incident, like what changes that makes them want to solve that problem, or the main thing that happens. And then the third paragraph should be the repercussions.
Okay, yeah, but it could also be like the escalation.
The escalation.
Like the character tries to solve the problem and it escalates, and then it ends with the character having to make a choice. This character now has to choose between love and destiny. I don't know, something stupid like that. Not stupid, but
I was trying to remember how I did it for A Curse of Roses.
I know it's been a while since I looked at my query letter. I should have pulled it up.
It's been a while. I think it ended something like her magic might not even be the worst thing about her, because it was the 1300s and homophobia.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm kind of thinking mine was like, okay, so they have to train the wild filly, but it's their friend's depression that's even more like insurmountable.
Not troublesome that wild filly they needed for the race.
Yeah, yeah, and it's but I kind of end with alluding to the issue with Gunner's depression and the conflict that causes.
So when we say a choice, the main protagonist has a choice. It doesn't literally have to be a choice, just something that's pulling them in different directions.
Yeah, and yeah, that's a perfect explanation. We'll have to have a whole nother video on writing a query letter, so we can be a little bit more articulate.
I actually enjoy this because writing the query first helps me stay focused on what the main themes of the book are. Definitely. So even if your plot changes, the query doesn't necessarily need to change because the themes are the same, unless you want to change themes, which.
Yeah, I wrote a query for the second book, and that really helped me, although I still rewrote the plot like 4 times, but I did at least know where I was going. I knew what the ending was going to be, and I knew what the main conflict and the climax was going to be.
Yeah, so same. I remember that you really helped me out with the core because I was having trouble in the middle. I knew where I wanted to go, but I didn't know how to get there. And then you gave me a suggestion, was just perfect.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So change the synopsis. change the synopsis. And then I got unstuck and finished the book in like 2 weeks.
Yay!
That middle was giving me, the middle is the hardest for me.
Yeah. For me, the beginning is the hardest. We should have like another discussion about like what's the hardest part of writing a book, the beginning, because like at least with my debut I rewrote my beginning 20 times, like completely different scene, completely different location, completely different conflict.
I did too.
Because people were reading it and they're like, I don't understand what's going on here.
With me, it was because I had so many different beginnings for Curse of Roses, and then in the end it was just like, it's the same thing, but we need you to put it somewhere else and show it better.
Yeah. I ended up putting the scene that I originally wrote at the beginning ended up going in the middle. So, that's, things change. Your book will change many times as you write it. Okay, so what's the third tip for writing a synopsis?
My third tip would be to just tweet it out. You don't have to actually tweet it, but Twitter gives you that limit of 280 characters. So if you can limit yourself to 10 tweets or under, ideally, and tweet out your entire book's events, then you can just copy paste them onto Word and adjust. But it's a good trick to keep you concise.
So write your synopsis as a Twitter thread, and like, each little beat is like a single tweet.
And you don't need to tweet them out, just schedule them. Schedule them for like 2022 and then delete it once you got it.
Yes, brilliant. I like it.
Or save it for when you're like, here's like the previous iteration of the book that ended up being published.
Yeah. And the cool thing about when you're tweeting your synopsis is that you are definitely imagining the audience reading it, because I think that's a problem with sometimes writing a synopsis is you're not like the voice of telling it to someone is not there. But when you're tweeting it, like you feel like you're telling it to someone.
Yeah, I think tweeting it makes the synopsis less dry. It's not a problem to have a dry reading synopsis, especially if it's a short one. I mean, you're going to have to trim stuff. But if it's a longer synopsis, you want to get voice in there. So that's another way Twitter comes in handy for longer synopsis.
Definitely. And what's the fourth tip?
And my fourth tip is for when you have the longer synopsis, because some agents do prefer the 3 to 5 page one instead of the 1-2 page. I actually mixed the earlier beat sheet with the story structure. Is it story structure? Yeah. Which I have here, which you can see. Is it the same? Yeah, it's more or less the same, but it has more character arcs, as in protagonist's reaction. And there's more room for B stories, so you can weave in some secondary plot lines in as well. So I mix this and save the cat for a longer synopsis.
Got it. Cool. Those are some good tips. Something that came to mind as an additional tip is my agent gave me this kind of like little template that says this, and it just gives you this idea to make your basic conflict concise. And the basic template is this is a story about a character this is a story about a blank, and that's like put in here your character is, who wants more than anything to blank, but can't because of blank. And so
when you DM me that, I actually did it for a Baker of Bones.
Oh yeah.
This is the story of Vilante who wants more than anything to just live her life in peace, but can't because people are nosy and keep butting into her life.
Yeah, that's great. And so it kind of makes your story like concise, and then you understand the main conflict, and then you can kind of write your synopsis around that main conflict. And then the agent I had before that agent said that when writing a synopsis, you want to include, think of it like, because of that, this happens, because of that, this happens, instead of saying, and then, which I say a lot. So he goes to the store and then he goes to the movie theater. Like that, you know, that's very episodic. But if you say he goes to the store and because of that,
he goes to the store, and because he saw a poster for this movie, he went to the movie theater.
There you go. Perfect. Yes. So those are our tips for writing a synopsis. I hope that was helpful for you. Definitely check out Diana Pinguicha's book, Curse of Roses, coming out in December. And
should have put a post-it on here, like,
yeah,
on my very blank kitchen wall.
Yeah, next time you're on the channel, you should like have a big poster of your book cover behind you so that people.
It's coming soon.
Yeah, coming soon. Oh yay, you get to do
the
your
cover is
reveal.
Coming soon. It's gonna be, I think it's scheduled for LGBTQ reads on
cool.
June 28th.
Sweet.
So
I'm
soon.
excited.
Hashtag soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. And for those of you watching, subscribe to the channel if you want more content like this. If you have questions about writing a synopsis, put them in the comments below. And we'd love to continue the discussion. You can find us on Twitter as well, at Carly L. Heath. And Diana, what's your Twitter?
I'm at Pinguicha, just my last name.
Perfect.
I was the first one in my family to get on the internet, and now no one can use it.
Love it. All righty, you guys. Have a good day. I'll see you.